Again, good night, one and all. I am Mark Garcia of the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, more fondly known as CETL, and it is my distinguished honor this evening to serve as your Master of Ceremonies. Now, tonight's celebration is all about legacy, excellence, and vision. As such, it is fitting that we begin with a moment of grounding, and we're asking kindly Miss Stephanie Carrington, our vocalist for tonight, to the platform for our invocation, which she would deliver. Miss Carrington.
Good evening, everyone. Where am I? Where am I going? Is it somewhere that I want to go? And when I get there, is that where happy is? Or is it somewhere I already know? Sometimes I feel like I cry without a noise. Sometimes I feel like somebody chose my choice. I have to run away. I have to sit and stay. I wanna live life where I'm allowed to say that I'm proud of the way that I spent my days. I can feel something going. It is small, but it's shifting the ground. When I was younger, I could hear it, but it's back. It's my sound. Sometimes I feel like I lost my only voice, but then I realized only I can choose my choice. I have to run away. I have to sit and stay. I live a life where I'm allowed to say that I'm proud of the way that I spent my days. These days only ever really get our days to dream and days to lose. I just need to choose my I have to run away. I have to stay. I wanna live a life where I am proud to say that I followed my joy, I followed my heart, I lived this one wild life, I ripped it apart, I pushed through the corners with no apologies, and finally I can say I know the way. I'll say that I loved the way that I
Wow. Did not know you were on Broadway tonight. Mr. Rajdu Sinanan Advisor to the Honorable Minister, representing Senator the Honorable Professor Prakash Prasad, Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Dawn Marie Defoe-Gill, Campus Registrar, representing Professor Rosemary Belantois, Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal, the UWI St. Augustine Campus, other members of the Campus Executive Management Team, the University of the West Indies St. Augustine Campus, Ms. Samantha Salve, President, Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited, Dr. Leroy Hill, Director, Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, UWI St. Augustine, Dr. Thomas J. Tobit, our featured speaker, Guardian Group Executives, managers and employees, specially invited guests, members of the UWI Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited Premium Events Committee, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Now this evening, we are gathered not just for a lecture. We are gathered to mark a milestone. We begin with legacy, and here's a story. 25 years ago, the UWI CETL, or SETL, St. Augustine, and the Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited came together in partnership, united by a shared belief in the transformative power of education. Without a doubt, there's no way that would have been possible without the groundbreaking work and determination of our very first director of Faith and Instructional Development Unit, Dr. Betty Henry, and her successor, Dr. Anime Edwards-Henry. Tonight, we honor that vision, their vision. We reflect on the journey that we have undertaken, and we look ahead to the future of teaching and learning in the Caribbean. 25 years is a significant milestone. Over that quarter century, this lecture series, along with the alternating premium teaching awards, has evolved into a space where ideas meet action, where policy meets practice, and where innovation in education becomes a conversation for the entire Caribbean. This evening, we are going to reflect on this legacy and look forward at the same time to how education, empowered by technology, policy, and human creativity, will continue to shape a region that we so love to call home. Please sit back, relax, join us as we look back with pride at the remarkable journey through this 25-year collaboration.
Welcome. Today we celebrate a remarkable milestone, 25 years of transformative collaboration between the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus and the Guardian Life of the Caribbean. You know, this enduring partnership, launched in the year 2000, has become a cornerstone of teaching excellence at our campus, creating a vibrant, student-centered learning environment that continues to evolve and inspire. You know, from the very beginning, our collaboration has championed a clear mission to recognize, to celebrate, and reward faculty members who exemplify, teaching excellence in education. We honor those who create environments where students' learning thrives, preparing graduates to become independent learners, creative problem solvers, and lifelong contributors to society. This partnership manifests through two signature initiatives that have become integral to our academic calendar: the biennial UWI Guardian Life Premium Teaching Awards and the alternating Premium Open Lecture Series.
I think these premium events have really helped to elevate value of teaching and learning on all school levels, on all educational levels. And so I think that is really needed, because that is the core of any particular educational institution, teaching and learning. And we know that if learning has not taken place, then, we wonder if teaching has really taken place. So these premium events have really helped to emphasize that and really change the perception of teaching and learning, the value of teaching and learning, and also the approaches to teaching and learning throughout the different levels.
Together, these two programs have created a dynamic cycle of recognition and learning that has shaped educational practice across our campus. The Premium Teaching Award presents more than recognition. It presents and celebrates arts and science of teaching. Every 2 years, we shine a spotlight on educators who transform classrooms into spaces of discovery and growth. These awards have evolved alongside higher education itself, embracing new challenges and opportunities that define modern learning.
I vividly remember Professor Dan Pratt, who showed us how teaching can be approached as a scholarly, research-driven practice. And this inspired my own interest in academic governance. Then there was Dr. Stephen Brookfield, whose emphasis on reflective teaching sparked campus-wide conversation and shaped our faculty development workshop.
I enjoyed a great camaraderie when we met to decide on the lecture topic, the theme, and the planning of the event. Everyone's suggestions were respected and given consideration. Some memorable or meaningful moments for me as part of the settled team supporting these events were brainstorming on topics, especially during the pandemic, when we had to ensure that the topic was relevant to the virtue of teaching and learning, and this was new to everyone at the time.
The Premium Open Lecture Series brings distinguished international voices to our campus. These lectures have addressed the most pressing issues in higher education, from the digital transformation of learning to mental health in academic setting, ensuring our community remains at the forefront of education innovation. This celebration underscored how our partnership had evolved from an initiative into an institution. More recently, our collaboration has embraced the challenges and opportunities of our digital age. We addressed the shift to online and blended learning environments, the integration of artificial intelligence in education, and the changing needs of the 21st century learners.
Now you see students who are much more satisfied, are much more engaged, and you've seen it in an increase in retention and are much more equipped when they go into the world of work. Why? Because they're not just like computers where they just receive information, but now they can process information by different inputs. Yeah. So whether they socialize with others, they get opportunities to interact and collaborate with others.
I have seen firsthand the pride it brings, the spark of rich conversations, and the spread of fresh ideas. These initiatives build both community and legacy, reminding us that teaching is fundamentally scholarly, impactful, and transformative.
I've also made some lasting friends. We have lost a few along the way, God rest their souls. The UWI Premium Teaching events have matured into a dynamic, intellectually rich, and strategically important fixture in the university and guardian group's calendar. They serve not just to disseminate knowledge, but to shape the future of learning and teaching in the Caribbean and beyond. It also provides a wealth of knowledge to professionals in the corporate world, especially to human resources personnel.
This collaboration has fostered a culture where outstanding teaching is not only recognized, but continuously enhanced, creating rippling effects that extend beyond our campus. Looking ahead, we embrace the future with the same spirit of innovation and excellence that has defined us for these 25 years. The UWI Guardian Life of the Caribbean Partnership stands as a testament to what we can achieve when vision meets commitment and when educational excellence becomes a shared pursuit. Here's to 25 years of transformation and to many more years of shaping the future of higher education together.
I know some of us may be a bit emotional who have been involved for these 25 years. This has predated me by, I think, 10 years, Mr. Relief. But it is a wonderful reflection to see how things have evolved. And now it is my honor to invite the podium Dr. Dawn Marie Ifugil, Campus Registrar of the UWI Center Western, to bring greetings on behalf of our campus principal.
Thank you, Hawk. Good evening, everyone. That was actually very nostalgic for me. I was actually in first planning committee, Betty, when we all started. That dates me a little bit. I was saying is, Mr. Rashir Sinhan, who I just realized is one of my peers in UWI, advisor to the Honorable Minister representing Senator the Honorable Professor Prakash Pasar, Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, members of Campus Executive Management Team, UWI, and I see Pops Sarnavir. Welcome. Ms. Samantha Saw, President, Caribbean Limited, Dr. Leroy Hill, Director, Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, Dr. Thomas Tobin, welcome. Our feature speaker, Guardian Group executives, managers and employees, specially invited guests, members of the UWI Guardian Life of the Caribbean Premium Events Committee, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. We love long salutations in UWI. It's a pleasure to be here today representing our Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal, Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine. Professor Antoine sends her sincere apologies for not being able to join us and extends her best wishes for this evening's event. A warm welcome to all our students, faculty members, guests and supporters as we gather for our biennial open lecture and celebrate a significant milestone, 25 years of this remarkable event. Special thanks to and congratulations to Dr. Hill and the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning for their ongoing dedication in hosting this important initiative. We are especially grateful to Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited for their continued partnership and commitment to education. Since 2000, they have stood with us in recognizing excellence in teaching. This initiative, first brought to life through the vision of Ms. Betty Ann Roller, has helped honor our most outstanding educators while promoting dialogue around teaching and learning. This year, we focus on the theme From Barriers to Bridges, Teaching and Learning for All. We eagerly anticipate Dr. Tobin's address on this timely and critical topic, which is not just a philosophy, but a call to action. As education evolves, we must ensure our learning environments are inclusive, accessible, and empowering for everyone. Technology, as we have seen during the pandemic, can be both a bridge and a barrier. Our challenge is to use it wisely to support equity and access. We are also seeing greater awareness around neurodiversity, acknowledging different learning styles and cognitive differences like ADHD and dyslexia. Frameworks such as Universal Design for Learning, which Dr. Tobin will explore, can help us adapt our teaching to meet these varied needs, particularly when grounded in our unique cultural contexts. At UWI, our Faculty of Humanities and Education, alongside the Division of Student Services and Development, are working to support students with special needs and first-generation university students. Our goal remains the same: to empower every student to succeed and to contribute meaningfully to their communities. In closing, I extend my deepest thanks to Dr. Hill and the team at Settle, and as well as our distinguished speaker, Dr. Tobin, and to you, our audience. Thank you for being a part of this ongoing journey towards inclusive, high-quality education. I hope today inspires you to reflect, innovate, and turn barriers into bridges in your own spheres. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Campus Registrar, Dr. Defugil. Now, at the heart of this Silver anniversary celebration is partnership. And for 25 years, Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited has stood side by side with the UWI in advancing educational excellence. As such, it is my privilege to welcome to the podium Ms. Samantha Sao, President of Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited, to share her reflections on this milestone.
Good evening, all protocols observed. I won't bother to go through that very lengthy list. Distinguished guests, esteemed faculty, students, colleagues, welcome to UB Guardian Life Open Premium Lecture. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you this afternoon as we celebrate our 25th anniversary of the UWI Guardian Life Premium Awards Lecture Series. Wow, it feels like, that very special anniversary of, your better half. That's exactly what it is. 25 years. That's a milestone. And it represents a lot more than just endurance. It represents legacy, a genuine partnership, and that collective vision that both of us share in education that must remain at the highest and most powerful bridge of opportunity in our society. For a quarter of a century, Guardian Life and the University of the West Indies have walked side by side together. We have celebrated teachers. Yes, you. We have celebrated students. We have innovated. We've reached beyond limits. We've created a platform for conversations that sometimes challenge convention, but always sought to push the region in a forward direction. As Nelson Mandela reminds us, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And I assure you, if you reflect on your own personal lives, we can all attest to that. It is not evenly placed in the hands of all, though, and that can be a little bit disappointing. 1 in 6 young people are neither in education, employment, nor training, and that is very unfortunate. Youth employment remains in double digits. In rural communities, digital access is still too often a privilege and not a right. And skills mismatches cost our economies dearly. Did you know that almost 40% of losses in productivity, according to the IDB? That's an alarming stat. These are not just statistics to be filed away. That's why we are here. That's why we have this partnership. They are the barriers that slow our collective progress. Economic barriers that make quality education a distant dream. Digital barriers that widen the divide between connected and the unconnected. Geographic barriers that isolate rural students, and cultural barriers that limit participation of voice and innovation. Tonight's theme, From Barriers to Bridges, Teaching and Learning for All, reminds us that every barrier can be crossed. Every barrier can be broken. A scholarship is just a bridge. A teacher's mentorship, and we all have those, is just a bridge. A partnership between academia and private enterprises is just a bridge. And when those bridges are built with intention, guess what we do? We transform lives. And at Guardian Life, we are passionate about doing exactly that, transforming lives. I recall meeting a young man one day who described education to me as being a passport out of poverty. And I'm sure you've heard stories like that along your journey. With little to his name, but determination, he was able to pursue his studies through financial support and the encouragement of educators. Educators are huge in the sphere of encouraging the young minds. People believed in him. He learned to believe in himself. Today, he runs a thriving business, employing young people and fueling growth in his economy. He created employment and learning for many others. This is what you call the multiplier effect on education. One life empowered, a family uplifted, a community, and strengthened it is a nation advanced, is a community advanced, is a region advanced, is the world advanced. That's what we do as educators when we motivate and we mentor. The World Bank tells us that every additional year of schooling rises, individual earnings are up by approximately 10% and contributes about 0.5% to GDP. This is why education is not just charity. It is a strategy, and a long-term strategy at that. At Guardian Life, our mission is to help people cross from uncertainty to security. And like I said before, that's what we are passionate about. From aspiration to achievement. Insurance is about building bridges, creating partnerships, creating long-lasting relationships, wealth creation. We bridge financial and help with financial resilience and prosperity. Supporting education is just one pillar of doing that. It is therefore tangential to our purpose. It is central to it. This 25-year partnership with the University of the West Indies has been one of our most enduring commitments. Through these awards and open lectures, we have celebrated excellence in education throughout. Through the open lecture series, we have created a space for bold conversation, creating and stimulating new ideas, and bringing about the future of learning and work. And though we have invested in the most valuable asset of all, our minds, our people, and that we hold dearly. As we celebrate this milestone, let us not only look back at the 25 years of history with pride, as we saw earlier on, but let us also look forward with urgency. The true strength of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider community, the wider Caribbean, will never only just be measured by the things that we hear about very often, the energy sector, oil, gas, infrastructure, financial services. It will be measured very much so and equally by the quality and creativity and resilience of our people. And many of that is sitting right here in this room. On behalf of Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited and the wider Guardian Group, I am thrilled to extend heartfelt congratulations to the university. May you continue to grow, innovate with purpose, lead with courage, and expand the frontiers of knowledge for many generations to come. As Kofi Annan once said, knowledge is power, information is liberating. Education is the premise of progress in every society and in every family. It is the backbone of our home. We are proud to have walked this journey with you for the last 25 years, and we hope to continue walking this journey with you. Proud to celebrate 25 years of excellence in teaching and learning, and proud to continue building bridges strong enough to carry our people and our region towards a more prosperous and brighter tomorrow. Thank you, and good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sal. It's always good to hear from the corporate world how much they appreciate educators. And you mentioned mentors. And I would also like to take this moment, to acknowledge, praise the secondary and primary teachers and principals who have made the time out of their schedule to be with us this evening. And for our 25-year partnership or sponsorship, we can assure you that what we have learned here, we try our best to transmit at all levels. Now, as we reflect on the partnership, we are reminded, as Ms. South said, of the critical role of national leadership in shaping the direction of education. So to bring remarks on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, Senator the Honorable Prakash Prasad, we welcome Mr. Rajdev Sinanam, the advisor to the Minister.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies. Ms. Dr. Don Rudy Fugger, Campus Registrar, representing Professor Rose Marie Antoine, Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal, University of the West Indies. Other members of the Campus Executive Management Team, University of the West Indies in Person Campus, Mrs. Samantha Sahal, President, Garden Life of the Caribbean Limited, Dr. Leroy Hill, Director, Center of Excellence in Teaching and Learning, the University of the West Indies Campus, Dr. Thomas J. Tobin, our featured speaker, specially invited guests, members of the UWI Guardian Life of the Caribbean Premium Events Committee, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm here to bring greetings at this very auspicious function on behalf of the Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, Senator the Honorable Professor Prakash Prasad. Unfortunately, he sent his regrets. He had a lot of other engagements to attend this evening, so he asked that I represent him here. Now, let me firstly congratulate and bring greetings on behalf of our ministry to the University of the West Indies and Garden Life. And we like to, congratulate that collaboration that you all embark upon to have forums such of these for our learners and educators. I came out from the educational background also. I've been educated for the last 32.5 years before I took up this position. And I was surprised to hear that, that the MC mentioned there's secondary school teachers and primary school teachers here. And I came out from the secondary school system. So I want to congratulate all of you all for the job that you do, given the challenges that you face on a daily basis to be here and to deliver your job in a very effective and efficient manner. I mentioned by one of the previous speakers that education, and it's my philosophy, is a key that opens the doors to many opportunities. I'll be the first one to stand here and attest to that fact. I came, and I have no qualms about saying this, from a very broken home, abusive relationship, but I was determined. I came off from the junior sex system in the 1970s. Okay, I mean, I'm going to know my age a bit there, right? Well, forgive me. All right, but I took my education. I went from a 3-year junior sec to the secondary system, and then to a college to complete my A-level studies. And then I applied to the University of the West Indies and I got accepted to my first choice. Doing all that, having to go through all the abuse, poor socioeconomic conditions, and all the struggles. Because I saw getting my degree was the first step to creating many opportunities for myself. I subsequently proceeded to study for my master's degree. And I subbed there because I wanted to go back to the secondary school system and give to those who show similar experiences like myself. Right? So I'll be the first one I said to attest of the power of education, how it transforms your lives. So I want to congratulate the University of the West Indies and everybody here present in the tremendous job that you're doing and the impact that you're having, not only in the academic achievement of others, but helping to transform the lives of our citizens, of our country, the region, and to the world itself. Because many of our students and graduates their base worldwide. Our minister, Professor Prakash Prasad, he came out from a tertiary level institution where he spent almost 45 years. He worked at the UWI campus, and then he retired recently as the president of UTT. So he has a passion for tertiary education. And being with him, seeing his operations on a daily basis, notice I didn't have any prepared speech, all right? So I come to talk from my heart, all right? So being with him and seeing his operation on a daily basis, that passion and that drive that he has to make education affordable to everyone, and he takes his job seriously. And whenever he's taking a cabinet note, recently we took some cabinet notes which was passed, they all will be informed of it in a short while. Some misinformation that you all may have seen in the media, where they want to merge certain tertiary level education, that's totally false. So, don't remind me of that. That's hysterical, right? So that's why I say I must mention it, because some of you may have seen it also. Okay, just as mischief created by our detractors. All right. So I will not take up any more of your time, but congratulations to the Abandoned Life of the Caribbean and the University of the Indies in creating this forum and transforming the lives of many citizens of our country, of the region, and the world as a whole. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Cinnamon. I wish I could be like you without a prepared speech. But we do appreciate the affirmations of the support that we have. And, a lot of what you said actually hints towards barriers being overcome by bridges. And we really appreciate that, the real perspective that you put on it. Now, from 2000 and beyond, this premium open lecture has afforded us the privilege of hosting some renowned practitioners, some of the top thinkers of the world. And tonight is no exception. To introduce our distinguished speaker, I now invite Mrs. Deborah Souza Oprafabri, Senior Assistant Registrar, Risk Management, Office of the Campus Registrar, the UWI, St. Augustine.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed. Tom Tobin prefers meaningful introductions over lengthy accolades, so I'll keep this brief and share the bio he sent for today's talk. Top is a founding member of the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Mentoring at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, as well as an internationally renowned author and speaker on issues and quality in teaching with technology, including evaluating online teaching, academic integrity, copyright, and accessibility. He holds a PhD in English literature, a second master's degree in information science, a professional project management certification, a master online teacher certification, the Quality Matters Reviewer certification, the Professional in Accessibility Core Competency certification, and he recently completed the Academic Leadership Academy from Penn State. He tells his nieces and nephews that he is standard 47. Tom is the author of Evaluating Online Teaching, The Copyright Ninja, Going ALTAC, A Guide to Alternative Academic Careers, Reach Everyone, Teach Everyone, Universal Design for Learning in Higher Education, and his forthcoming UDL at Scale. It's about whole campus universal design for learning. His talk today is titled From Barriers to Bridges, Teaching and Learning for All. We are glad to have you here with us today, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Susan Opafabri, for that warm welcome. I'm Tom. Hi, everybody. Keep that energy up. For the next hour, I would like to share some ideas with you, and we are not going to stay at the level of ideas. My hope is that whether you are here as a teacher in an elementary or secondary school, a faculty member at university, a member of industry, part of the ministry, or you're a student, that you will leave here in the next hour with at least one practical thing that you can do to lower a barrier for other learners in your lives. So that's promise number one. Promise number two, I want to take work off your plates. Everyone is overloaded. Everyone is busy. Everyone feels the weight of all of the work and effort and advocacy that we do. So, promise number two, I am not here to say you are doing it all wrong and here's how you should do it. I am here to help make things smoother, easier, more effective for you. So, let's do this in a formal way, and then let's move away from the formal stuff. My name is Tom Tobin. I am an author and speaker and researcher. I'm a white man with gray hair, glasses, and a giant black mustache that you can see from the back row. So, let me just test out our technology here. Fantastic. So welcome to the 25th anniversary Premium Open Lecture. It's sponsored by the University of the West Indies and the Guardian Group, so thank you very much for inviting me to come and work with all of you today. In our next hour, our topic is lowering access barriers for learners in our schools, our colleges, our universities, and other spaces where they're learning, like on the job. I have a few big questions to ask, and I hope that they will help us take practical and direct action. Before we get to those, though, let's do a little thinking experiment. On the screen now is a group of Trinidadian students at a table in a library. Some of them are paired up looking at laptop computers, and one student is looking on with her, is working with her thumbs on her mobile phone. So my opening question for all of you today is, what has changed since this photo was taken 10 years ago? My question for everyone, what barriers do you perceive students are facing today toward the successful completion of their studies? Let me put 1 minute of music on just to have some space for everyone to think. And then when the music has completed, I'd love to hear your ideas. We have a couple of folks who have microphones who can run around and give them to you. Now, there are many ways for you to be in our session tonight. You can pretend you're online and lurk. That means think your own thoughts, don't say anything to anyone, and that's totally fine. You can also take part in the conversation. So if what we are talking about sparks an idea or a question, or you'd like to share a short story, please raise a hand and we'll bring a microphone to you as we go through our conversation. So 1 minute of music for thinking. And you'll see a media player on the screen. I like to show what I'm doing when I'm doing it. So the question is, what has changed? What barriers do you see for students now? So that was 1 minute of music, and now a little trivia for everybody. In elementary schools, secondary schools, college classrooms, when the teacher says, "Are there any questions?" how long on average do people wait for the answer? Shout it out if you have a guess. I got 10 seconds over here, I got 10 seconds, I got 2 seconds over here, I got 2, 10 and 2 is gone, what? No. So you notice that most people are saying very short time periods here. The average length that most people will wait after they say, "Are there any questions?" we tend to get uncomfortable with silence around 7 seconds. And that's the average. So when I say, "Are there any questions?" and then we wait a few seconds, "Oh no, I'll just continue with the lecture then, shall I?" 7 seconds is not enough time for you to even understand if you have a question, let alone formulate it. So I use that musical cue to get me to be quiet for a full minute. So, what is one thing that is a barrier for students today to their learning? If you'd like to share one, there's one up here. We'll bring a microphone to you. Hi, sir. What's your name?
Guyton Notley.
Hello.
Hi. More access to social media than it was 10 years ago.
So students have more access to social media on their phones. And could you say that again? I was just checking my LinkedIn. Yes, a good one to start us off with. What's one barrier that you perceive students having today? Hi, right here.
Just programs that they can access, education concepts, instruction that they can actually access.
Fantastic. And what's your name, ma'am? Brianne says, and let me rephrase for the microphone here, just having access to educational programs, sometimes that's challenging. And programs that are at their own levels. Fantastic. We have one here. And what's your name? Doreen says, reduced interactions with other people. We just went through a global pandemic where we practiced social distancing, and lots of our students had to be at home in ways that were very challenging for some people and very liberating for others. Right? And now we're seeing them come back into classroom environments, and maybe they're not all about engaging or volunteering or diving right in. We'll actually talk about that tonight. Thank you very much. I saw a hand over here as well. Hi, we're bringing the microphone to you. Hi, what's your name?
Fenella.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Of course, coming from a healthcare background, you will see at least the increase in the acknowledgement of a lot of mental illness within the school systems, and there's no real change in at least the way that education is brought. It's not tailored to consider all of these different changes like autism or ADHD, whatever it is. It's the same.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic response. And may I build on that for a moment here? Have you noticed that back in the day, there weren't a lot of people who identified as having ADHD, autism, different kinds of neurodiversity? And suddenly there's lots of us out there. Is that because suddenly many more people have become neurodiverse? We've actually gotten better at understanding what the entire spectrum of neurodiversity is and looks like. Your weird uncle who ate the exact same thing for lunch for 35 years might not have had a diagnosis back in the day. At the same time, our educational systems are actually not set up to acknowledge a lot of the variability with which people show up to education. So that we're asking students to do it one way or fail. And we're working with students who can flourish when they have options and choices. Now, I hear from a lot of people I don't have time to do all that inclusive stuff. I am challenged just to cover the content. I need to get through that. And remember, promise number 2 was I'm going to take work off your plate, right? So let's dive in on 3 big ideas today. And thank you all for sharing your ideas. If you have more in your head, bring them out as we go through our hour together. These 3 big ideas I'd like to share are about culturally responsive teaching and learning, about how to engage with folks across the neurodiversity spectrum, and universal design for learning, or UDL. So, let me tell you a quick story. On the screen is an image of 2 students at a desk. They're both writing. One young lady has a cap on. Her name is Katie. When I worked at Northeastern Illinois University in Chicago, I met Katie. I was in our teaching and learning center there, and a faculty member who had Katie in his 3rd year education course came to me and he said, "Tom, I need your help. I have a student and I know she's cheating, but I can't figure out how." And I said, "Do tell. Tell me more." So he showed me a paper that Katie had written early in his course. It was a little disjointed. The ideas ran everywhere. There wasn't a clear thesis, and the details didn't really support the main ideas. Then he showed me an essay that Katie had recently submitted. Clear main topics, details that supported with evidence and ideas, a through line that actually ran through the essay. Really bad spelling, but still an improvement in the quality. And I thought, this does look different from the earlier one. So why are you coming to me? And my colleague said, "I can't figure out how she did it. I've taken this better paper and put it through the plagiarism checker for our university. I've asked my colleagues if they've heard language like this. I've run passages through Google to see if I could find where she's copying these things from. But they all come back original. So what do we do? You've got to help me, Tom." And I said, "I will help you." I did what I always do. I called Katie. "Hi, Katie. My name is Tom. I work with instructors at our university on teaching. And one of your professors just showed me one of your papers. It's really well done. How did you put it together?" Katie told me a very different story. She said that ever since she was a little girl, she wanted to be a teacher. And she got good enough grades in elementary and high school. But when she came to college, something was off. She understood what her professors wanted her to do, and when she sat down to write out those papers, it became challenging for her. So by the time she was in 3rd year as a junior, she was on academic probation. She was getting ready to be kicked out of the university. And Katie said, "I was desperate. I didn't know what to do. So I went to our colleagues at the Writing Center on campus." Now, my friends in the Writing Center are fabulous people. They are not psychologists, psychiatrists. They can't diagnose anything. They did figure something out. They discovered that when they said, "Katie, here's the paper that your instructor wants you to do." This is actually the rating form for tonight. If you got one of these on the way in, you can just fit out all the excellence over here and you'll be done early. But when they showed her the assignment from the instructor and they said, "Okay, Katie, sit down at this computer and type out what your outline might look like," Katie couldn't do that. When they said, "Okay, never mind that. How about just take a pen and paper and write out your thoughts?" Katie had trouble doing that. And when they said, forget that, just talk to us about how you want to respond, Katie could do that. Now, some of you know what my colleagues in the Writing Center did next. They connected Katie with a piece of software called Dragon Naturally Speaking. She put on a headset, she trained it to recognize her voice, and when she talked, it typed into a word processing file. The quality of Katie's work went up so much, so quickly, that her professor thought she was cheating. Now, I was very proud to be able to play even a little part in Katie's story. By the way, what happened to Katie? She was on academic probation. I'm very proud to say that at this moment, she is a 4th grade social studies teacher in the Schaumburg School District outside Chicago. She is a success. And I also have to apologize to all of you right now, because Katie's story is inspiring, and it's also an example of how all of the neurodiverse, all of the students who find disability barriers in their environments, all of the students who have challenges with schooling. Her story is an example of why our current system that treats those students with one change, one time for one person, making an accommodation, why our systems are breaking. It was enough when we had 1 or 2 students who needed disability accommodations. Now it's 30% of all of our classrooms. Our systems were never designed to have 15 Katies in a classroom. So what do? Promise number 1 and 2. Let me take some work off your plate and let me give you something practical to do. So thank you for listening to Katie's story. And on the screen now is an image of a pinball machine. That's Godzilla up there, and apparently there's lightning going through and a bunch of different sort of Japanese monster movie themes in this pinball machine. Now I'll explain why that's on your screen. It kind of leads us to a paradox. Because humans perceive and interact with our environments in almost infinitely variable ways, how can we possibly design our learning experiences for all of them? That would seem to require a separate plan for almost every possibility. For autistic and neurodiverse learners, learners with vision challenges, learners with physical disabilities in their environments, learners whose first language isn't the one we speak in the classroom, you name it. As a specific case, we can think about designing for neurodiversity among our learners. The general advice for supporting neurodiverse learners is to provide them with structure and predictability. However, many neurodiverse learners suffer under rigid and inflexible structures, so the general advice is also to provide them with freedom, options, and choices. So how do we do both? How do we provide learners with enough structure and enough freedom at the same time? Also without watering down or simplifying the content that we teach? One way to do exactly this is to adopt Universal Design for Learning, or UDL principles. UDL allows us to design only a few different paths within an overall structure that's predictable for our learners and, importantly, also predictable for us as designers, as teachers, as facilitators. On the screen is an engineering example of formal structure that allows for significant choice and agency within it. That's that pinball machine. So now I'd like to introduce you to the Universal Design for Learning framework. Many of you in this room know what this is and may be practicing with it. Many of you in this room, this might be a first impression of it. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, is a cognitive framework that recognizes that when we learn anything, whether we are 6 years old or 60 years old, we have to activate 3 different chemical pathways in our brains. I don't want to turn this into a neuroscience talk. I can actually speak about the acetylcholine uptake pathway through the hippocampus. Yes, the captioning actually spelled that correctly, hooray. I can do that, but that's not this kind of talk. When we think about anything that we want to learn, we have to activate these 3 different learning pathways in our brains for it to stick. Here is a question, and I'll just take shout outs real quick. What was the last appliance that broke in your home? Washing machine? Dishwasher? Coffee maker? Oh, bless you. The car? Oh no. Okay. So, a lot of washing machines have been going lately. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Second question. What was the first thing you did when you realized it was broken? How did you figure out what to do next? I called the technician. I'm sorry? Call the guy. Eddie down in front has a connection. This is great. Oh, check YouTube. Is there somewhere with somebody that's going to show me how to fix it? Anything else? ChatGPT. Don't do that, and we'll talk about why. Any rural people here? Oh, our colleague down in front here plays with it, takes it apart, and tries to see if she can fix it. This is awesome. I love the energy. I love the I can do it attitude. And I've tried that, and I just end up breaking it more. So yes. Here, how did you know that it was important, right? If your dishwasher breaks, or your car breaks, or heaven forbid your coffee maker goes. That is a reason to need to learn what's wrong and how to fix it quickly. Whether you're looking at YouTube, whether you're calling the guy, whether you have a service person, no one mentions looking up providers anymore, right? It used to be that you would open this book called the telephone book, and I know I'm an old person, right? We just look on our phones now. It's like, where is the repair person, and can we get that person here? But my point is, you had a burning need to know. You had a real impetus to learn what was wrong and how to fix it. Students in your classrooms, do they have that same burning sense of I need to know? Maybe not. So when we learn anything, we have to give our students an understanding of why. We ask the why question, and we give them more than one way to get engaged and then stick with us even when things get complex. We give them more than one way to take in information. That's that middle part. This is what we need to learn. This is the readings, the lecture, the video they have to watch. This is preparing, doing your homework. If you give them more than one way to do that, they're more likely to be successful with it. And we give them more than one way to take action or express themselves, to show what they know. Why all this more than one way, multiples? That is the heart of universal design for learning. Design multiple means of engagement, representation, and then action and expression. That's the whole learning cycle from I know why I need to do this, to what's the thing I need to learn, to how do I show that I have mastered it or I have the knowledge. Most of our schools, colleges, and universities are set up so that there is right now one way to do this process. If we talk about engagement, there's one thing that students get if they get any engagement part of the process at all. A lot of us just skip right to the representation. Here's the reading, go do it, and come back and we'll talk about it. Watch this video. Listen to my recorded lecture. And then the show what you know part, right, Nanasek, call me in the morning. Yes, I am that kind of doctor, right? One person got that joke. That was fantastic. So this is the official definition of universal design for learning from CAST. And when we think about this, if we're going to empower people from different life circumstances, neurodiverse people, language learners, people with disabilities, learners from disadvantaged economic backgrounds, if we want to help them to transform their futures, we require both a unique approach and knowledge of the variability that our learners present to us. People come to us with different ways of perceiving their environments. That's neurodiversity. People come to us with different levels of preparation for where they are in their schooling right now. That's cultural. People come to us with different levels of support at home for using tools and technology. That's economic diversity. So, when we think about that, I'd like to propose an idea that is represented by the pyramid that's on your screen. UWI makes us identify the places where we see patterns of barriers among our learners. Perhaps lots of students request similar disability accommodations over time, or everyone in the class gets a concept wrong on a test, or you get the same question 700 times asking you to clarify the directions on an activity. Those are all places where once we know where the barriers are in our learning interactions, we can take purposeful steps to lower or eliminate those barriers. This is the intentional work that takes work off your plate. Promise number 2. On the screen, this is a pyramid, universal design at the bottom to provide choices to the majority of learners. And then special services based on large groups of learners or patterns that represents fewer students in the next slice. And then moving up at the top of the pyramid is personal assistance after we see individual accommodations. One change, one time, one person. And we'll never get rid of the need to make those accommodations. But with intentional design work, we can actually severely reduce the need to make as many individual accommodations as we're doing now. Remember at the beginning of our talk, and I said our system is kind of broken. It's set up to treat people individually to make accommodations. And now that we have dozens of people who need accommodations, it's much more work. This is what I'm talking about. Think about the pinch points in the educational experiences that you know about. You parents, ask your students where things are confusing for them, or they get turned around, or they don't yet have the details, training, or information that they need. You students, think about those same places where you get bogged down, or you wish someone would show you how to do the thing that everyone just assumes you're supposed to do. You educators in the room, think about those pinch points where things aren't going the way you've planned them over and over and over again. Where is it that you give those directions on an activity and then you get 700 emails asking for clarification? Where is it that you give the lecture of your life and then everybody takes the examination and they get that concept wrong and you have to reteach? Where's that? Where is it that you explain something in response to student questions and they come up to you after the class session and say, oh, hey teacher, that was great, but I still don't get it? Right? Where's that? Those are places where you don't have to shift absolutely everything you do, but you can start by doing a little design work in the places where you are already going to consider how you're looking at those activities anyway. So what I'd like to suggest is universal design for learning allows you to approach those changes in a manageable and effective way that has research behind it. Oh, by the way, when you go back to your context, so you're going to be in a department meeting, you're going to be in shared governance conversations at your institution, you're going back to your corporate conversations or your work in the ministry. This lecture is probably not for you directly. This lecture is intended to give you ways that you can talk to your colleagues about adopting inclusive design practices as part of your everyday work. And here's how you do it. You will hear one of your colleagues say, that's all great. I agree with the direction. It's socially just. It's the right thing to do, but I don't have time to do all that extra work. You will hear that if you haven't already yet. So what you say is you say, I made this one little change, and now I don't get the 700 emails from my students anymore. I made this one little change, and now I don't have to reteach this topic every time I get this class or this topic. And then you just kind of sit back for a minute. And they'll say, really? And you'll say, really? And they'll say, how do I get that? And you got to. Also, you will hear your colleagues say, well, that's all well and good, giving people lots of directions or breaking things down into little chunks for them. But isn't that hand-holding? Isn't that making it simple? Isn't that watering down our content? And I will tell you that universal design for learning is watering down, hand-holding, and simplifying our content. If you're doing it wrong. We do not want to lower the rigor of our subject matter at all. School is supposed to be hard. School is supposed to be challenging. School is where you learn things that you didn't know before. All right, I heard someone go, yeah, so all right. So keep the level of rigor at a high level. What we want to do is lower the access barrier to taking part in the conversation in the first place. How do we actually do that? Let's get practical. On the screen now is an image of students studying during a UWI law school lecture. One of the students has a laptop open, some have their mobile phones out, another student is writing notes on a pad of paper. So a simpler way to approach the 3 principles of universal design for learning, there they are on the screen. Design multiple means of engagement, representation, action, and expression. A simpler way to approach this. Don't tell your colleagues about the 3 brain networks. They will suddenly remember that they have an appointment to wash their hair. Tell your colleagues that at its heart, universal design for learning is really +1 thinking. There's a big +1 up on the screen. Here's what I mean by that. If there is now one way for learners to engage with the materials, that's where they all start. But if there's one way for them to, engage with each other, with support staffers, with their instructors, with the wider community. If there's one way for that to happen now, make one more way. Does that cover every single possibility in your learning spaces? No. Does that radically reduce the number of people who will say, please treat me differently because I can't be successful in the structure you've got? That's what we're after. Using a +1 mindset allows you to take intentional action that is limited in scope, that has a huge effect on the number of people who are going to ask for those individual accommodations. And if I can reduce the number of people from 40% down to maybe 5 or 10% who are asking for one change, one time for one person, I have just saved myself a ton of individual effort. And it's effort that we cannot plan for, right? Wouldn't it be lovely if at the beginning of every class, you received a piece of paper from your school that said you are going to have 2 blind students, 1 student in a wheelchair, 3 people with autism, and 1 person with a peanut butter allergy. Actually, it's more like 6 peanut allergies, but wouldn't it be great if you got that paper 3 weeks ahead of time and you could, I plan that out, right, great. No. In college, our learners are adults. They can choose to disclose to us about disability conditions, or they can choose not to. That's their right. Our students in our elementary and secondary schools, unless they have formal paperwork, and that formal paperwork requires testing that is expensive and time-consuming. So lots of students who could have formal paperwork never get it. I'm about to offer you permission to do something radical in your teaching spaces. Here it is. Administrators, close your ears. You do not need formal permission to make accommodations for any student who asks you for one. You do not need paperwork in place before you act in an open or inclusive or kind way to students. Remember the rigor? Keep that here. But wherever you're able to, help your students by lowering some barriers for them. And there'll be somebody up in the back thinking, yeah, easier said than done, pal. Let's address that. Let's get practical. A little while ago, I was talking with Sam Johnson, and on the screen is something she said to me. She's one of the neuroscientists at CAST who discovered why using multiple ways of designing for engagement, for representation, for action and expression, why that actually works. And she said something that stuck with me for years. She said, we want a situation that's good for everybody. Thinking about what we can do at the level of design to make accommodations less necessary. Let that one sink in for a moment. If we take intentional action to lower some access barriers, not even try to do all of them, then we are more likely to have students stick with us. Administrators, now listen up. Inclusive design is good business. It makes financial sense. That's actually the point of my next book on UDL at scale. I did my homework before I came to Trinidad. And when I talked with some of our colleagues at the university, in elementary schools, in high schools, and the wider community, I heard a few things. I heard how, as you heard in some of our introductions, 1 out of 6 of our young people isn't either in school or in employment. I heard about how even coming to get a degree doesn't mean you're going to get a job in that field anymore. I heard about declining enrollments in higher education and declining activity in moving toward trades. So what's one of the few things that we haven't tried yet? Hanging on to the students we've already got. Let's talk about something called the freshman cliff. In colleges and universities, if we have 500 students who come to us as first-year students, By the time they're ready to be second-year students, there's probably only about 450 of them left. That's called the freshman cliff. What's the number one reason why students stop their studies with us or drop out entirely? Money, financial reasons. Universal design for learning can't touch that one. That's the second biggest reason, time. Our students are coming to colleges and universities with caregiving responsibilities for their own children and their aging parents. They have work responsibilities. They're serving in the military. You name a reason why students are trying to cram their educations into already busy schedules. And this is also true of a lot of our teenagers in high school as well. Those reasons are there. So if we can help them to stick with us, the difference between stopping out and stepping up is often only 20 minutes a day. Think about where learning happens when our students aren't with you. Teachers, this one is kind of a humbling statement, and it's absolutely true. It's true in my classroom and in yours. Students don't learn when they're in lectures with us. I can say that categorically. They might hear some things, they might take some notes. Learning takes place when people are practicing with the ideas, skills, and knowledge. And that's so seldom in the classroom with us. Some of us are doing active learning classrooms where we do create time for students to get hands-on and apply things. And students are learning in those times and spaces. But in most education, students are preparing for learning. And the learning happens when they're at home, doing the homework, doing the practice problems, doing the readings, asking questions of themselves, creating flashcards to study with. That's where the learning is actually happening. So let's think about how we design for when our learners are away from our formal spaces and times. Here's a lovely statistic. In Trinidad and Tobago, people over the age of 12 own cell phones, smartphones. 90% of people over the age of 12 have one. Many of them bought it for the fancy camera. Just because you have a device doesn't mean that anybody ever taught you how to use it for learning. Go up into the more rural areas of the country. People still have phones, but they might not have service all the time. It might be spotty in some areas. People go to places just to have Wi-Fi. They go to the public library. They go to certain restaurants. I could name a couple. Someone just said Starbucks. I wasn't going to say it out loud. But yeah, you brought them in. All right. But that, right? Even in the United States, where I'm from, 30% of households don't have, the other way around. Only 30% of households in the United States have a laptop or a desktop computer at home and dedicated internet access at home. 96% of Americans have a smartphone. You tell me, last trivia question. My colleague Katie Linder at the University of Colorado did a survey of college students across North America, and I looked up and the numbers are similar here in the Caribbean. She asked undergraduate students what devices they would prefer to learn on or with when they were at home. And by a measure of 4 to 1, what did they choose? Boy, I can fool you easily. No, not the phones. The students preferred to learn on a desktop or a laptop computer, but what do they own? The phone. So if they want robust devices, but they can't afford them, or they're not part of their community, or they don't have reliable access, you get what you get. So if we're thinking about trying to reach our students where they are, when they are learning, here are a few things that you can do tomorrow. I've given you a lot of ideas to think about. Let's get practical. On the screen now is an image of a hand with the 5 fingers spread apart to indicate the number 5. Here are 5 strategies that you, regardless of your role or the level of education that you're involved in, you could do tomorrow. Strategy number 1, start with text. On the screen is a script for a television commercial, and the people who are selling this product have figured out that what they're going to do is, instead of coffee in the little pods that you put in your coffee maker, they're going to sell hot dogs, hot wings, donuts, like meals in a cup. I don't think I would buy this product. But having a script is a splendid idea when you want to +1. If you start with text, if you have notes for what you want to talk about, if you have a narrative of how you want to share ideas with learners, then when you want to do a 30-second explainer video about a challenging concept, so you're making a +1 format for that information, you already have your alternative format together with your script. And if you're like me and you want to just talk to the camera and do the script afterwards, do that, that's fine. But have more than one representation of the information you want to share with people. And this is something you don't have to do every single place. Pick and choose where you want to do this. Where do your students ask a million questions, or they routinely get things wrong on tests? Those are great places to start with a little +1 thinking. Strategy number 2 out of 5. On the screen is an instructor in a chemistry laboratory, and she's seated at a computer. She has the image of a journal article that she wants students to look at. There are 2 students in the lab with her. One of them is looking at us and giving us a thumbs up. That student knows that we can take the PDF or the word processing document of that journal article, and we can post that into the learning management system, excuse me, or put it online. And that way, students can make alternative versions of those things themselves. Here's a fun fact for you. Imagine there's a single father who lives on the other side of the island. He works in Port of Spain, and he has to drop his daughter off at school in the morning and pick her up in the afternoon. And then he's taking a night class here at UWI. Sound familiar? All right. This person is putting all kinds of kilometers and miles on their car. If that person could take the journal article from his chemistry class and have it read out loud to him through the speakers in his car, that's the 20 minutes that can be the difference between being prepared and not. How would he do that? Those of you who have phones right now, you can go onto the Apple Play Store or the Apple iTunes Store or the Google Play Store and look for Read It Out Loud app. There are dozens of them for free. Many of them were people's PhD projects for their computer science degrees. And it will take almost any format and read it out loud to you. Artificial intelligence can help you with this as well. Take this document and turn it into a podcast for me and speak it out loud for me. So the other student knows that he's got a video camera over his shoulder. You can tell that this is an old photo because the video camera is the size of a suitcase instead of the size of like my fist right here. But we'll do with what we've got. There's also a still camera behind that student because he knows that we can take some still images out of that video and put them into a word processing document with the information that the professor was talking about in the video. Again, is that watering it down? Is that holding the hands of the students? Only if you've made it simpler. Only if you've made it easier. Keep the rigor high, lower the access barrier. When you're paying attention to a lecture, do you get absolutely everything the lecturer is saying to you? No. That makes me sad because I'm standing on a stage right now. At the same time, there is a handout for this lecture that the folks in CETO have shared with all of you. You'll see the links in the documentation, or if you go to the CETO website. There's a handout with all of the planned words that I was going to say. And you'll get a lot more out of that afterwards, having experienced the live event. Strategy 3, let them do it their way. On the screen are 3 equivalents. There's some equal signs here. On the left is the traditional written essay. You nursing people in the house, the effect of chocolate and cocoa flavonoids on plasma lipids and lipoproteins associated with cardiovascular disease. Anybody know what that is in plain English? Somebody, I heard it over here. Say it louder. Our friend said chocolate causes heart attacks. You are exactly backwards, and I'm really glad to say that. Dark chocolate in moderation is actually good for your heart. Fantastic. Okay. You had me worried there, like cocoa plantations and things are allowed. Okay. Then there's an equal sign here with some media prayers. Another equal sign, and there's a student who's given her cell phone camera to her friend, and she's pretending to be a news reporter to respond to an activity from her teacher. Here's the secret for giving students options on how they do the activities in class. Make sure that the grading or the assessment criteria are the same across all the versions of the activity. If one activity is being graded more simply or more easily, or another activity is much harder or more complex, you're not giving them options. You're just giving easier and harder. Strategy 4, go step by step. For this, I had to look up some of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago so I can speak confidently about this. For those of you who know how to drive a car, where did they tell you to put your hands on the steering wheel for maximum control? Everyone in the audience said 10 and 2. Wait a minute. Almost everyone in the audience said 10 and 2, and I just accidentally asked your age. If you imagine that the wheel of the steering wheel of the car is the face of a clock. For those of you under the age of 18, a clock is a round thing with 2 sticks on it that helps you tell time. And you put your hands up to the top near 10 and 2. Somebody said 9 and 3. Why don't they teach our driver's education students 10 and 2 anymore? They teach them 9 and 3 at the sides of the wheel. Anybody know why? You are correct, sir. Our friend said airbags. If you are driving and the airbag has to deploy, you're in an accident or you hit a squirrel or I don't know, and you have your hands toward the top of the wheel, the airbag will push your wrists together and you will break both of your wrists a split second before they whack you in the forehead and you will give yourself a concussion. If you have your hands at 9 and 3 on the sides of the wheel and the airbag has to go off, it will push your arms away from your chest. Maybe you'll get a little bruise on your shoulders. Public safety tip from me. Why are we talking about driver's education? 10 and 2 is an outdated concept in driver's education. It is a splendid way to think about the time that we spend with learners. 10 is 10 minutes. Lecture. Let them watch a video. Ask them to read something. Take in information for 10 minutes. And then 2 is 2 minutes. Ask the learners to actually take an action for 2 minutes. Have you noticed in this lecture, we've been doing 10 and 2? Let me pause and ask you a question. Even if it was something that seemed unrelated, I'd bring it back around. On the screen are some examples of, for an online course, how we might do 10 and 2. Watch an intro video, read a case study, take in information for about 10 minutes. Post a response to the case study in the online forum, 2 minutes. Read an article, watch a video, and then do an internet scavenger hunt. Why does this actually work? 10 and 2 allows us, it's a neuroscience secret, because the 2 minutes doesn't actually have to be aligned with what you did in the 10 minutes. You can tell your online students to go for 2 minutes and check their social media and come back after 2 minutes. They won't, but you can tell them that. But the 10 and 2, is that science? Is that a hard and fast, you must go for 10 and then 2? No. You can do 9 and 3, but as long as it's taking a break regularly to ask students to take some action. Here's the secret. It's the act of taking a break from taking in information that actually helps us start to cement that information into long-term memory. Have you ever been at a task so intently and you're at it for a long time and you just have to take a minute and step away from it? Build that into the time that you spend with your learners as well. And then 5 out of 5, set content free. Excuse me. I mean this in 2 different ways. 1, set it free from the clock. There's that clock again with a big red X over it. Put your materials in places where students can get at them when they're not with you. Whether that's on a website, whether it's in your learning management system, put your materials somewhere other than printed out sheets that get lost in their backpacks. One guy got that one. That was awesome. But if you put those materials in places where students can get at them, they will use them. Here's a fun fact, and I had to really dig on this one. I had to go into the telecommunications company statistics for Trinidad and Tobago. No, I wasn't snooping on your chat. When out of the hours of the day is peak internet traffic in Trinidad and Tobago? When are students online and studying during the day? Great night.
7:10 p.m.
I got midnight over here. I got 7 o'clock at night over here. I got it. All right. Here's the answer. There's a little peak right around noon to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, lunchtime. And there's a much bigger peak between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Our students are online and studying after they put the kids to bed, after they've done their work for the day, after all of their other responsibilities. Teachers, are you available to take student questions at 3 o'clock in the morning? That was a strong response. Be like, no. So give your students information when they are on their own schedules and times. And set it free from format requirements. On your screen is a video of someone demonstrating a process, and there's someone performing a sign language interpretation of that process as well. Those of you who use specialized software in your classrooms, if you post examples and practice sets and things in that specialized software package, people have to have that software on their device in order to practice with it. So if you're using Stata or R for statistics, if you're using My Math Lab special software from the publisher, there is no mobile version of My Math Lab. Trust me, I've asked. And people want it, but they haven't developed it yet. So record your screen as you use that specialized software and post the result as a video. And then anybody with a mobile device can watch along, play along, and practice with you when they're working on those practice things. So let's wrap up our conversation, and we'll go in two different directions really quickly here. Here are all of those ideas. You can start with text. You can create some alternatives. You can let them do it their way. You could do 10 and 2, break tasks into their components. And you can share interactions in ways that students can get access to them when they are on their own time. And now on the screen is an image of some teenage boys somewhere in Port of Spain, leaning on a wall, checking their mobile devices. We should acknowledge a challenge for our schools and our colleges. These young men on the screen at the wall, they're one reason that many of our local school districts have banned mobile devices during the school day. Just because people have mobile devices means that they automatically know how to use them for scholarly pursuits. We talked about that earlier. But when we ask our learners at any age to come to class meetings prepared, we need to have ways for them to be successful with that preparation. So think about how your learners are studying, preparing, working on their homework problems, doing the readings when they're away from your formal spaces in the classroom. That's where our design thinking does the most good. Despite the quality of our in-class lectures, lab work, and assignments, learning takes place when they're on their own. So when you go back to your own context and people say, what was the premium open lecture about? You can tell them that instead of talking about accessibility, we can chop the end of the word off and talk just about access. When we say accessibility to our colleagues, they can make the mistake that we are thinking only about people who have disability barriers in their environments. And they'll say, yeah, that's only a few people. I'll just wait until I get the formal accommodation request. What we're actually talking about is everyone, and how do they have access to educational materials, people, support, and help. Can I disclose something to everybody? I'm autistic. There, done. Let's wrap up our time together with one final big question, right? On your screen is an image of 14 UWI students in front of trees on campus. They're hugging each other, they're raising peace signs, they're smiling for the camera. Communications and marketing loves this photo. Which of these are neurotypical people and which of them are non-neuroconforming? Which ones of them had disability barriers in their environments? Who is working and caring for family members in addition to their studies? You can't tell just by looking. Before we think about how best to support and teach our neurodiverse learners, we should understand who they are and what it means to be neurodiverse. Now, the term neurodivergent is a general name for the natural variability in how our brains take in information, process it, and react to the world. It was originally coined to replace the label autistic spectrum disorder, and even today we hear neurodiverse used to refer to people with a range of specific learning challenges. But this medical deficit-based model is rapidly being replaced by a definition that sees special needs as a limiting approach. Our learners never fall into neat categories. Here are the attention deficit learners, here are the autistic learners, and the like. Rather, there is so much variability among humans along so many different dimensions that we cannot label learners as belonging only to one group or another. We are moving away from a deficit-based conversation of what people can't do to focus on the individual strengths that different learners have. Ultimately, the neurodiversity approach is based on a fundamental idea that all of us humans are neurodiverse, taken collectively, that learning differences are a normal part of human variation, and that this variation makes up our human ecosystem. So who's neurodivergent? I'm an autistic person, and you've likely encountered a range of ways in which people relate to other people and interact with the world around them. Our conversation today should prompt us to think about how our classrooms, our support systems, and even entire institutions are designed to help or maybe hinder learners across a range of approaches, and how we can lower barriers for as many of our folks as we can. So as we're winding down our time together, let's revisit the structure versus options advice about designing for neurodiverse learners. On your screen is an image of a UE instructor standing in front of a room full of learners. Neurodiverse learners don't look or act differently. We're just part of the everyday variability that we encounter in every group of people. There are 6 things that you can do with and for them to help a broad range of learners make learning stick. Structure and predictability. Remember, that is structure in the rhythms of your course, not limitations on how work gets done. Consequences and then immediate responses for actions. The sooner that learners get feedback from you, even the automated kind or the small kind, the better they are at adjusting. Don't assume or ask for self-motivation. Provide suggested due dates and milestones. That helps here. Build interdependency among your learners. Yes, people hate group work, but making small tasks part of learning engagements, that increases accountability. Procedural rigor versus subject rigor. We've been talking about this throughout the hour together. Keep the challenge level at an appropriate level of difficulty for your content and lower those access barriers. And have open Q&A time. Unstructured time for what questions do you have, or what do you remember or find important. That's a key element that we typically do too seldom. All of these practices support the UDL framework and are helpful not just for our neurodiverse learners, but for almost everyone in our classrooms. The last point I want to share with everybody are considerations about learners on their mobile devices, the access that they have beyond the classroom, and the variability among our learners along the lines of neurodiversity. All of this leads us to practice culturally responsive teaching. On the screen is an image of the main campus building here at UE St. Augustine, along with a diagram of the elements of culturally responsive teaching. And we can get so caught up in making sure that we're covering all the content that we don't design purposeful time for students to make connections between our subjects and their own lives and their communities. In culturally responsive teaching, we ask learners to talk about our subjects in their own language. We ask learners to talk about regular opportunities for learners to see how people in the community and their families use the ideas and practices that we teach. One of the most powerful things you can do to be culturally responsive is talk to people who are working in industry. Are you teaching mathematics or you're teaching accounting? Ask your students to work with bankers who are willing to spend some time with your students on projects. Get your students talking to the communities whom they will eventually be serving as professionals one day. And did you notice that during our premium open lecture, we've been doing 10 and 2? We've taken intentional pauses to help everybody think and reflect. That's intentional. And many of you are doing this kind of teaching right now. So I want to celebrate that. It chimes well with universal design for learning, and it helps us to lower not only access barriers, but barriers of class, culture, wealth, and stigma as well. This is my first visit to Trinidad. I ate my first doubles this morning. I picked out, someone's applauding that, that's awesome. They said, how are you with spice? And I had to tell a story about my upbringing. I grew up in an Irish family. You know what's coming next. When my mother wanted to make a meal spicy, add more salt. So my palate is not prepared for doubles. So I was very careful. I picked out a little piece of pepper and I put it right on my tongue to test how much capsaicin. And then I started coughing. And I needed some water. And then I ate the doubles and it was delicious. So on the screen now These are Trini foods. Roti platters, shrimp, chicken, goat, plantains, doubles, little pots of sauce. This is takeaway food that I hope puts you in mind of what you will take away from our time together today. So we won't do this with any music, but I want to do just a lightning round, shout it out, and I'll repeat as many as I can. What's your one biggest takeaway from our time tonight? What's one thing that you want to try? One thing that is new to you? One thing about which you still have a question? Or one thing that you are already doing and we have underlined it as important? What's your one biggest takeaway? I heard someone say 10 and 2 over here. +1 on the strategies. Our students are online between 1 and 3 a.m. Well, I saw. Our friend here is also online at 1 o'clock in the morning. We'll get your contact information later. Awesome. What's your biggest takeaway? By the way, front of the room, 6. Back of the room, 1. But I have faith. Nobody's counting. It's not a competition. What's your one big takeaway? Using music so that there's not an awkward silence when you give people time to think. Awesome. Thank you. What's your one big takeaway or one big question? Using innovation to modify how you're working in the classroom. I'll add so that you can lower your students' anxiety and workload and make things easier for you. Splendid. One thing.
Start with text.
Start with text. Excellent. Talk about access instead of accessibility. Fantastic. Wait a minute. Hold on. I didn't hear that one. Oh, take an online course. That's awesome. I teach them. This is fantastic. All right, so thank you, everybody. I'm glad that you joined our session today. I'm grateful to you all for inviting me to share with you about universal design for learning, and I would love to learn how you'll apply these things in your own everyday world. You can see how to connect with me at thomasjtobin.com. If you're curious about the Universal Design for Learning Guidelines, udlguidelines.cast.org. You have access to these handouts. Please remember that we would love to have your rating of your experience for tonight. And please, I made a joke about putting all the excellence and things. Please rate it honestly. We'd love to have your feedback. And I have a few copies of my book here. If anyone would like to buy one and have a signed copy, I'm going to go out into the lobby at the tables, and I would love to talk with you and hear your story after our session today. But I want to say thank you so much for coming out tonight. Now go spread this word. Thank you.
Dr. Tobin, that was a showstopper, starter, everything. I really enjoyed that. I took a walk through the audience earlier, and everyone was eating out of your hands, just like you were at Doubles this morning. We couldn't go on, of course, and seeing that persons are eager to engage, and we're just going to leave some room for a quick Q&A. So what we're going to ask, if you have any burning questions, please, if we can keep it brief so that we can have a variety of these, please raise your hand and Usher will bring the microphone to you. Again, reminder, please keep it concise. So,
All right, one right here. We'll bring a mic to you in a moment. Oh, but so pass that in, please. Thank you.
this is quick, please.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, Brianne.
Hi.
Really enjoyed the lecture. I thought it was great. My question is there a part 2? Because universal design for learning, I feel the teachers at my school, everything you said they do. So we implement that. I'm a big fan of assistive technology for anybody who needs it, not just those with accommodations. So they're doing all that great. How can we use universal design for learning to help those who cannot access the curriculum at their level? So you have a grade 8 student who's functioning at a grade 5 level. So how do we Then, because you talked about the rigor, yes, and that's for those that can understand the concepts. But what about those students who are not yet able to even access? So I know that's a big question. I'm just wondering if there's a part 2.
Fantastic. There's a part 1.5. Remember the pyramid diagram where we're using universal design to design for the vast majority of our learners, and we're also trying to pay attention to patterns that come up among our learners over and over again. The third and fourth level of that pyramid is individual accommodations and then personal assistance for fewer and fewer students. We will never get rid of the need to make one change one time for one person. So many of our students are still going to need those accommodations. At the same time, if we can cut down on the accommodations of, I need more time on my test, or I need to have a note taker in class, we can focus our efforts on people who need those more intense affordances or more complex affordances, rather than doing the paperwork about, oh, I've got 16 people who need extra time on the test. That means that we're putting our efforts in the right place and at the right level. So yes, there is a deeper level of universal design for learning that we can do at scale as institutions. It's what I wrote my next book about, and I'd be happy to continue that conversation later. But the short answer to your question is, UWL is not a magic wand that we can wave and make all of these barriers go away. I talk about lowering barriers, not eliminating them, for a reason. That's purposeful. So thank you for helping us to set our expectations realistically and to use UDL so that we have time and space to make those accommodations for the people who need them still. So thank you very much for that question. We got time for a couple more?
Any further questions?
Other questions, comments, ideas?
Basking me to wave. I may not be seeing you clearly. Okay. Going once, going twice.
Thank you again. This has been wonderful to work with all of you. I hope you take good things back to your context. Thank you.
Again, Dr. Turbin, thank you for such an enlightening and thought-provoking.
And awkwardly run up to the table. Who do that?
Ladies and gentlemen, we really enjoyed that. It's been an extraordinary evening. And before we bring things to an end, I would just like to now invite Dr. Donry DeFugel, Campus Registrar, to make a special presentation to Ms. Samantha Sauer, President of the Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited. And rest Samantha's face says it all. It was not scripted. And this is to show up, it's a token of our appreciation for the strong support that your organization has given us over the last 25 years. Thank you, Dr. DeFugel and Ms. Sauer. Now, on this historic evening, it is my pleasure to extend a very abbreviated thanks to all who are associated or friends of the UWI St. Augustine campus and the Guardian Life of the Caribbean. Tonight is truly monumental for us. As such, and keeping with policies of UDI, I'm going to bring things down for the first learners who have been seated for quite some time. And again, we apologize for our delayed start. So I'm going to thank, of course, Dr. Donry DeFugel, our campus registrar, Ms. Samantha Sauer, President of the Guardian Life of the Caribbean, Mr. Rajdev Cinnamon. I really love his speech. Advisor to the Honorable Minister, Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills. And, of course, to Dr. Turbin of the University of Wisconsin-Madison for such an engaging lecture. Special thanks to the Hilton Trinidad and Conference Center for their support and their high-quality service over the years. We also appreciated the invocation by Ms. Stephanie Carrington and to Mr. Mazdan Gordon-Tola and his team for their services this evening. Now, behind the scenes, there is a whole lot of work, as you'd imagine, and we extend our appreciation to the Office of the Campus Principal staff of Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited, the Marketing and Communications Office, special thanks to Ms. Joanne Green of that office, the Facilities Management Team, Campus Security, and the dedicated staff of the CETL. Now, the CETL, for those of you who may not know, is responsible for faculty development on campus. But because we are so 21st century oriented, we apply UDL and a thing called OER. So please visit our website at sta.uwi.edu/CETL. Why? Because we have many free open resources for all levels of educators. This tonight is not within a silo. This is open to all. You could also subscribe to our YouTube channel, UWI Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. Just today, you would have missed out on the Conversation podcast with Dr. Tobin. Guess what? You didn't miss it. Just follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe. The content is all there. We challenge you, educators, keep flying the flag high. You all work real hard at every single level throughout the national and regional landscape. We change lives, you make lives. Sometimes you keep lives going. That's something we never want to undervalue. Special thanks to Mrs. Keisha Craig-Rotley for her hard work from the Guardian Life of the Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for bridging the barrier of the rain and the long delayed start. And because of this, we really want to spend time with you. We want to get to know you. We want to see how we could support you moving forward. Faculty, students, teachers, principals, thank you all so very much. We now invite you outside to the foyer for some cocktails. Please, let us mingle, get to meet each other. And before we do that, I'm going to invite Dr. Defoguer, Ms. Sal, Mr. Sinanan, Dr. Tobin, and members of the Open Lecture Committee to please ring in for some official photographs. On behalf of the UWI and Guardian Life of the Caribbean, thank you so much for celebrating 25 years of educational excellence.